after coming off of Love Island to just like, I did this TV show. Hi, I am Tigerlily. My artist project is Flor, and I think I'm going to be building a strawberry today. I honestly have not played with Legos in a long time, so I don't have a lot of faith in how this is gonna turn out. We're gonna go with it. I mostly as a kid played Neopets and Sims. I was big into video games, not so much physical games. I was just too busy like running my Zoo Tycoon world. Hey, kiss me in the rain, like you'll only ever love me, like we're in an indie movie. Stay, slow dance in the rain, like we're in an 80s prom scene, like we're in an indie movie, kiss me slowly. So that lyric is from my song, Like We're an Indie Movie. That song was, I think, a really good example of how I typically songwrite. I usually start with a mix of just words and phrases that I think are cool. And I've always been really fascinated by internet culture and kind of what resonates with other people. So one of my favorite things when I songwrite, and I don't know if any other artists do this, but I'll go onto Spotify playlists and like get in the weeds of what is trending in terms of playlist names. Because to me, if there's a Spotify playlist that a lot of people like, it means that something about that name is really resonating with people. So with Like We're an Indie Movie, I was always seeing playlists that had tons of followers that had to relate to slow dancing and a lot of things about kissing in the rain, a lot of titles about like we're an indie movie. And so that song was kind of a mashup of a ton of phrases I found that resonated with different people. But then to make it personal, I always tie my songs back to like something in my real life. And for me, that song was about this crazy whirlwind romance I had with some dude who I actually met. I was living down in Medellin, Colombia for a summer, and I met some French guy. We had a great time over the summer, and then we just kept trying to find each other like wherever we were in the world, because I moved back to New York, he moved to Paris, and then I was in London, and we'd always try to meet up in these different cities. And it always felt kind of like this indie movie, like over the top kind of romantic things where it's like we'd meet up, we'd like kiss in front of the Eiffel Tower. And the song itself, when you listen to it, it's kind of cheesy. But the thing that was fascinating to me about it was when I was looking back at it, once we stopped moving around and we weren't just living all around the world, I realized what I was in love with wasn't this person, it was this idea, this kind of concept of being in love. And when I look back at the song and I think about all those phrases people have, I think it's really romanticized just kind of the concept of being in love. So I'd say that song for me is really just kind of an ode to the idea of like these kind of concepts of like kissing in the rain and like being like an indie movie that people like fall in love with, and it's not so much about a specific person. I think what I like about making music in this era is that it's really up to you. And that was something that I always struggled with. And I think this is something that's rapidly changing too. It's like, even when I started making music, I had this kind of belief, like a fairy godmother was gonna like arrive and like see I was talented and then just like sweep me off and like I'd be like a star. And this still happens sometimes. It's like out of nowhere, someone really important will see someone and be like, this person's a star, I'm gonna turn them into a star. In today's music industry, there's a lot more power to individual people because you don't need the industry to tell you you're a star. There are a lot of people who the industry didn't think were like the stereotypical kind of star material, but these people, fan by fan, going direct to their fans, were able to create incredible careers for themselves and prove the industry wrong. So I think that's definitely what I like most about it. I don't know if this is something that's so much hard, but I've always had a real appreciation for old music. I love like the Bee Gees are like my favorite artist right now, and like the Mamas and Papas, all these old records, and the way music was done back then was quite different. Like you'd have a whole orchestra sometimes actually playing on a single song. There was like not a lot of auto-tunes, so you had to be a good singer, and like I think it's great now that there's all these things to help people out, so you don't have to be a great singer and have a whole orchestra, but I think there's something quite romantic and cool about how music was made back in the day. I'd say the Legos are coming along all right. I'm not sure how I'm gonna round this out to look like a strawberry, but we're gonna find a way. Our hearts are made to bleed, shut up and kiss me. Empathy is a disease, don't say you miss me. That's a lyric off a song called Shut Up and Kiss Me that's coming out. And it's gonna be the first single off my debut EP called See Me in Hell. I think that song, out of all the songs on the EP, has some of the most like just over the top kind of ridiculous lyrics. Like I think I had a desire after coming off of Love Island to just like I think, so I did this TV show, and after I got off the show, I was just like, man, that was not me. And I was like, I think it's funny too. A lot of people, I think you come to LA, and a lot of people come here and they know they want to do something and be someone here, but they're not really sure exactly what it is and like how they're gonna get there. I think for me too, when I first moved to LA, it was like a lot of people were always telling me throughout my entire career, like what I should do. When I started out in music, everyone kept telling me, because I was playing music with my sister and cousin in a band, they were like, you should become a K-pop star. Like obviously that's what you should do. And then when I came to LA, everyone saw me and they were like, you look like a TikTok influencer. Like you should be a TikTok girl. Then I got cast on reality TV shows and they were like, you should be an online dating reality TV show girl. And I was like, none of this really feels right. So with Shut Up and Kiss Me, it's very much like a ode to 90s grunge, which is what I grew up on living in Seattle. For me, that song really felt like, okay, this is me. This song is me. This is who I am. Because I think especially too, when you're being on reality TV shows or whatever, there's a lot of like, we want you to be this character, be portrayed this way. So for me, having a song that was just kind of like over the top, that really felt more like, I was like, this song feels like me. And so I'm super excited. That's the first single that's gonna be coming out on the EP. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna incorporate these all to Strawberry, but we're gonna do our best. I would say the windows have been helping, like add some architectural elements to it, but it's still a work in progress for sure. I think some green pieces would be good. I was like, I don't feel like the black or the white pieces are gonna be contributing to the Strawberry vibe. So I started making music when I was in elementary school. Yeah, I started really young and I always knew I wanted to be in a band. So I grew up really idolizing Nirvana and Queen. For me, they were like the coolest. So I knew I wanted to be in a band. I remember being like on the playground trying to like recruit band members, but back then no one had any skills. So it was hard. It's like you try and find a bassist, no one plays bass. So everyone was playing recorder at that time because recorder was mandatory in 3rd grade. But anyways, so I was trying to find bandmates, and by the time I got to middle school, I was really freaking out because I was like, I'm old, because I was always kind of like a music history nerd too. My dad loves music history, so I knew like when Michael Jackson got started, when he was hitting it big, and I knew I was behind schedule. I was like, I'm in middle school, it's desperate. I need to just get any band members I can at this point. So I recruited my sister and my cousin because they were the only people I could force to learn the instruments that I needed and to force to show up to practice. So I remember telling my mom, I was like, Bird, who's my little sister, needs to start taking drum lessons, and Emiko needs to learn the bass. I will be the guitarist and singer, and this is the band. And I don't think, it wasn't ever like, everyone was like, we want to be in a band together. It was just like, it was my idea and I was like, this is happening. And my mom was like, I've enrolled you in lessons, it's happening. So we started this band and it was called Bleachbear because again, like this is in like the days of middle school and everyone was on soccer teams and it was always like terrible tigers or like with like the double letters and like an animal in it. So Bleachbear like it kind of sounded like a middle school soccer team. And we started playing shows together and we were honestly like really like doing well. Off the bat, doing well. We got into one of the biggest battle of the bands in the city of Seattle. We were playing shows like every weekend and there weren't that many bands at the time. So we were playing with like sick artists like La Luz and like Deep Sea Diver and a lot of Seattle bands that I still look up to. And then what happened was after that, you kind of reach this plateau where I was like, okay, we're doing really well locally, but I'm not Ariana Grande, I'm not Taylor Swift, like I know what's going on nationally, I'm not Michael Jackson. And I was like, how do I get from like being a good local artist to becoming like world famous? And that leap for me was like unfathomable. Like as a high schooler, I'm like trying to figure this out. And I was like, I have no clue how to get from here to here. And I don't know anyone who knows this information either. Because in Seattle, it's not like LA. It's not like there were big famous people. Like nobody knew. So at least who I knew, nobody could tell me. So I was just like, okay, I think at this point, the best thing I can do is like enroll in business school because I have no clue how to figure this out. That's kind of step 2. I moved to New York, enrolled in business school, thinking I was gonna learn the music business so I could figure this question out. And then I got stuck on a totally different track because of course, you're going to business school in New York City. All my friends were going to work on Wall Street. So I somehow ended up working on Wall Street after that. So it was a very roundabout thing. And eventually, after I started in finance, I was like, I want to go back to making music. That was like the original intention of going to college. It was a very roundabout kind of weird system that all started back in Seattle, wanting to be in a band with my sister and cousin. This is very precarious. I feel like my Lego approach has been like playing like Jenga, but like it's not. I'm like, I can't, I need some like architectural support here for the strawberry. Well, it's interesting. I went on Love Island. I haven't released any music since then. In terms of how I'm gonna market my music now that I've been on the show, I don't know if it really is gonna change. I would say, if anything, I think Love Island, at least for me, was such an, I don't wanna say like unimportant, but like trivial thing, because I think I very quickly realized like, this is not for me. Like this is not for me. But I'd say what it did teach me that I guess I can bring into the marketing was, it was like the first time in my life that people like didn't like me. I won't say they didn't like me, but I mean, I was pretty like I don't know how to say it. Like I'm not a very controversial figure in in my day-to-day interactions with people. Like I'm not like a controversial figure. So like no one would have had a reason to dislike me based on my like the music I'm releasing. Like no one's gonna dislike me. But like for Love Island, it was the first time where I had people who on the internet who didn't know me being like, I don't like this girl. So it was weird for me. And I think what it taught me was, I think in the music industry, there's a lot of wanting to please everybody. I think you see that a lot with when people are releasing music or deciding what songs to release. Like, and I think artists especially are some of the people who are most afraid of this. Like I have a lot of artist friends and they're always like, oh, I can't release a song. Like I don't want, what are people gonna think if I release this music video, or is this song good enough? Artists are very, not artists, every artist, but a lot of artists are very sensitive to what other people are gonna think about their art. And Love Island, because I had already reached kind of the worst case scenario where people were like disliking me for no reason, it kind of made me kind of fearless in the sense I was like, why would I worry if someone dislikes the song I'm about to drop? Because people already dislike me because they don't like that I didn't want to date that dude from episode 5, or like something like so trivial and random that like is so unimportant. And that's kind of what I realized, because I was dealing with like the most random stuff after that TV show of people not approving of whatever. Maybe people didn't like the outfit I wore. Maybe they thought my name was stupid or whatever. It just kind of made me realize like, I'm really not worried to drop music that no one likes. But it also taught me like, and I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing. At the end of the day, you gotta make music that you believe in, because being known for something you don't wanna be known for is like so worthless, at least in my opinion. That's the other thing I realized when I was like kind of going through the whole LA process, reality TV process, whatever. It's like getting recognition for something you're not proud of, it doesn't feel like anything. Like at this point, I've like now been in People magazine, but it wasn't what I wanted to be in it for, So I realized I didn't think it was cool. I was like, this sucks, like I don't want to be in it for this reason. So that's what I realized. I don't want publicity over music I don't think is cool. Like you want to make music that you believe in, because if you blow up off of music that you actually think is shitty, like it's not gonna mean anything to you. I think things are coming along a lot better, honestly. I think these little green leaves at the top really helped the vision of it. I'm feeling like I don't know if it's like identifiable as a strawberry yet, but I still have one more lyric to go, so I think we'll get there. I mean, there's tires, but I honestly am confused how the tires, I mean, whatever, we'll figure it out. You're out of my dreams, you're out of my mind, don't feel a thing, I'm morphine inside, and I wish we were living in the 90s. It's interesting, I think the weirdest thing about me is that my parents growing up, well specifically my mom, has always believed, she's a very like rational person, but she's always just been adamant that like ghosts are real, psychics are real, like all this stuff, it's just a fact. She's like, this stuff is real. Growing up, my Christmas gift would always be like a psychic session. And I've gone through so many psychics over the years. The weirdest psychic session I ever had was this woman. It was a new psychic, new Christmas. And she told me I can channel people. And I was like, okay, this is new. Because usually when you have, I mean, every psychic's different, but the psychic sessions I had, it was usually people telling me about my future, where they'd just be like, look, you're going nowhere in this job, you gotta quit. But she was like, no, I can like channel people. And I was like, all right. And she was like, I have someone who wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay, go ahead. And she claimed, she was like, I'm gonna channel Kurt Cobain for you. And he had some things to say. I don't know if they were real, but the takeaway I had from it was she was like, if you want to channel people when you songwrite, they're available to you. You just have to ask them. Like, they're eager to write songs, give you ideas. And I remember thinking like, this is insane. Like, I don't, like this isn't gonna work. This is ridiculous. So I was sitting on my bed and I was thinking to myself, I might as well give this a try. Like, if anyone wants to give me ideas for a song, like, hit me. So the song that came out of that was Wish We Were Living in the 90s, which is gonna be another song on the EP, See Me in Hell. Kind of the way it worked was I kind of just started getting these words and phrases coming to me when I was strumming the guitar. Like, I had the 4 chords I knew I wanted, I just kept looping them. And I'd get these kind of words and phrases that would come to me. Oftentimes I'll get words, I'll get phrases, I'll get melodies, and then I'll get kind of like a visual. And the visual I was getting for Wish We Were Living in the 90s was this kind of visual of, I don't know if people are familiar with like Twin Peaks. It's like another like Washington State TV show. Kind of like a Twin Peaks-esque bar, like on the side of a highway. There's all these kind of areas in Washington in the suburbs where you're kind of in these mountainous areas that are like what they have in the movie Twilight. So just like a bar off the side of the road. It's like late at night, there's just a guy sitting there and he's at some bar that used to be like a bar bands would play in the 90s in Seattle, but there's no one there and he's just kind of staring at the stage, thinking back in time. And now he's old and he's sad, he's lonely, he's drunk, and he's just kind of thinking back to that era. For me, that was like kind of like a sad thought, but also hit kind of close to home because I grew up around a lot of people who had been playing music in bands in like doing rock and roll in the 90s in Seattle. And I knew these people now. It kind of made sense to me. I was like, I'd seen the photos from like their heydays back when they were young and in their 20s at these crazy concerts, like having the time of their lives. But then you get older and like that era in Seattle now is very kind of lost. Like now if you go to Seattle, Washington, it's like you see Amazon, there's all this tech stuff, but that kind of spirit of rock is kind of lost. Like even when I was playing shows there at the venues that used to host these crazy concerts, it's totally different now. Like they're hosting like random bands who are like in the local high schools, but it's not at all what it was back in the day. And so yeah, I wrote that song, and I think I've always been someone who's very nostalgic for kind of past eras. Even like with everything about this record, See Me in Hell was very much inspired by the past. But I think for me, Wish We Were Living in the 90s is a very special song because it's specifically about nostalgia for Seattle in the 90s. And so being from Seattle, it's really special to me. Here I have built this strawberry and we're calling it the steampunk strawberry? Steampunk strawberry. And honestly, I feel like it turned out kind of cool. It's got a random black wing. There is no meaning behind it. I think honestly, it's just probably a sign that I need to eat dinner soon. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. You can find my music on all the streaming platforms under Flor. And the new EP, See Me in Hell, is going to be released as singles throughout this year. The first one, Shut Up and Kiss Me, will be coming out in May.